Hey, YouTubers, Tazman here again, sharing my thoughts on the happenings of Wizards of the Coast and their OGL and everything that's been going on. So, just to give a really quick rundown of, for those that are new, I don't know how you could be new. Maybe the last 2, 3 months you haven't had a YouTube or something. I don't know. But Wizards of the Coast has had the OGL 10A, which is an open gaming license, and it's been around for about 20 years, maybe a little more. And it's what lots of companies use in order to uh, have content themselves and release content. I believe, I'm not sure if it's current, but I know that World of Warcraft used the OGL. I think Star Wars, I don't know, was it the RPG or one of their computer games actually used content from the OGL. Paizo's Pathfinder first edition used the OGL. In fact, that was pretty heavily used by the OGL and stuff. And various other, content creators of books, Kobold Press, Grim Press, just all these different companies have been using and depending on the OGL 1.0A to, to make their money and to bring forth their content, games and books and all that fun stuff. Well, Wizards of the Coast, their CEO, Cynthia Williams, who only started, a year ago there? I think she started February 2nd of 2022. She said that D&D is under monetized and that, it should actually be more of a cash cow and they need to monetize it more. So over that year or whatever, I think it was then, maybe it was just a little bit before then, that they acquired D&D Beyond so they could kind of move towards the digital side of things, because D&D's always been books, pen and paper. And during COVID, all of a sudden virtual tabletops became a pretty big thing, and they go, hey, we need a chunk of this pie. So anyway, they decided that they were going to take OGL 1.0A and revoke it, get rid of it, which I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand of everything, would actually put all these companies and everything kind of in jeopardy, because they have OGL 1.0A content in their stuff. I believe like World of Warcraft has Hunter's Mark. I mean, they could go rename it Mark of the Hunter or something like that, but that's a huge undertaking that they would have to do. So anyway, this caused a huge uproar in the D&D community. Is that they wanted to revoke this license that's been around, and there's lots of YouTube content creators that depend on that. They've kind of quit their regular jobs, they're doing YouTube, and they're actually writing their own books that are 5e compatible and stuff like that. And anyway, let's see. So I have to keep checking my notes. I've recorded this 4 times, and I'm hoping that now I've got my notes in a perfect order that I can get this right. So anyway, OGL 10A, which is the original one of the co-creators of it was a guy, I believe his name's Ryan Dancy, and I believe on someone's channel I was listening to him, and he was stating that the original intent of OGL 10A is that it was irrevocable. The word irrevocable does not appear in it, and therefore Wizards of the Coast is like, hey, let's jump on this. Let's take this little thing and now we can revoke it. And we'll release our own called the 1.1. Now this is the one I did my last video on, talking about how restrictive it is, and I didn't have all my numbers and stuff right in front of me. I decided, instead of just trying to do one in the heat of the moment and stuff, I would be a little more organized this time. But anyway, the 1.1 was very, very restrictive. It said that you needed to report if you made $50,000 revenue off of anything that you made, whether it's, books or content, whatever. If you made $50,000, you needed to report that to not to Paizo. Paizo's not to Wizards of the Coast. And then, of course, if you made $750,000 on it, then Wizard wants a chunk of that, and they want a hefty chunk of it. They want 25%. So if you were to say, you made $1 million in revenue off your product, Wizard is saying, hey, you owe us $250,000, which is pretty insane. And some of the things that came up with that is people that are fundraising, doing Kickstarters or something like that. If they happen to hit that threshold, and I don't know how common that is. I've joined some Kickstarters. I don't think they've ever been millions of dollars. But that would mean if, let's say, a thing wanted to, some company or whatever wanted to do some 5e compatible game system or something like that, and their stretch goal was, $745,000 or something like that. If they hit that 750, now they're underfunded a huge chunk. I don't know the exact math for it, but that's okay. So there was a lot of uproar. Now, I mentioned that this is kind of a negotiation strategy and stuff where I believe it's called anchoring, where you will take something and you'll present something that's really, really restrictive. Knowing that the people will be in an uproar about it, that they're going to fight it, they're not going to like it, they're going to kick and scream. But then what you do is later you release something that's still restrictive, but not quite as restrictive as the first thing. And people now are the mindset of this huge restrictive thing instead of the freedom they had before. And now they're comparing this new restriction to that heavy restriction. And it doesn't seem so bad, although before they were completely free. So that's kind of what I see going on with the 1.1 was extremely restrictive. There was restrictions, content that you created, Wizards could take and say, hey, this is ours. You can no longer sell it. We're going to sell it. We're going to make all the profit. We owe you nothing. And they even said things like, hey, you can't even take us to court because you agreed to this license. And of course, that caused a huge uproar. So then Wizards of the Coast came out and said, okay, you know what? We rolled a nat 1, which they rolled worse than a nat 1. And they said that, the other thing about 1.1 is they sent it out to content creators saying, sign this. And then they retracted that saying, it was just a draft, It was not a draft. They lied to us. Again, they've been lying a lot to us. And then 1.2 came out, which says, if you're a content creator, anything that you've already created is yours. Anything you create under this new license is yours. We're even going to be super nice and release part of the SRD 5.1, which is all the actual game rules and a bunch of the spells. We're going to release parts of that as a Creative Commons thing so that you can use it anytime you want. However, if you really looked at that stuff, the things they were releasing would be the very things that were questionable if they could actually enforce, because they're more game mechanics or game rules, which can't be copyrighted in the first place. So here they were trying to make this grand gesture of saying, okay, we're going to give you all this, but technically we could use it anyway. So there was still an uproar about that, especially because they also made it so VTTs would almost not be able to function. Now, this is only D&D VTTs. Any others would still be fine as long as they didn't contain any OGL 10A type of content. So anyway, what they said is, all right, we'll go ahead and we'll give you these things that pretty much are yours anyway, or that you could use without getting in any kind of trouble. But we're restricting VTTs because we want D&D to be a role-playing game, and these VTTs have animations for spells and stuff that make it more like a video game. Now the funny thing is the virtual tabletop that they wanted to release, kind of when they were showing it, it looks, kind of like a video game. It has all that same stuff. So they just wanted to make it so that they had the monopoly in the virtual tabletop market. Now I believe I looked for a while and I couldn't find the dude's name, but I think it was Chris something, who's the head of digital marketing, or he basically is the one that's spearheading kind of the D&D virtual tabletop. And anyway, he doesn't like D&D Beyond. He wants his own whole thing, and he wants D&D's virtual tabletop to be the only thing available out there, basically. So he also, along with Cynthia Williams, is kind of a bad guy. Anyway, so they wanted to kind of have the monopoly over virtual tabletops, which would actually hurt virtual tabletops quite a bit, because that's one of the main things virtual tabletops have, is they have D&D compatibility or availability. Foundry Virtual Tabletop uses the SRD to give you basic D&D 5e period. Roll20 and Smiteworks Fantasy Grounds, those both have special deals with Wizards of the Coast to actually have licensing to publish content that's locked behind paywalls and stuff like that, because Wizards of the Coast, of course, gets cut of that. Oh, I just bumped my desk and now my camera moves. Anyway, moving on. we're getting through the history. I'm sorry if this is boring. So anyway, then they said, "Oh, we're gonna do this as a play test. We're gonna ask for your opinion on 1.2." Now, they only said this not because they saw this uproar of the community and the content creators and everyone. They said this because now a huge what would be the word? Not, I guess, a revolt, an action, or whatever, where all kinds of people started unsubscribing from D&D Beyond, and this hits them where it counts. This hits their wallets, and they see these numbers just plummeting as thousands of content creators, as players, as DMs all start leaving D&D Beyond. And on top of that, then they see Paizo, who is the creators of Pathfinder, post something saying, "Hey, we're sorry, we weren't expecting this. We sold 8 months of our warehouse stock of core rule books. We had 8 months of that. We sold it all out in 2 weeks." So Paizo is making bank, and Wizards of the Coast is going, "Oh, wait a minute. We want their money. We might have to flex a little bit for them." So then they came out with this grand gesture, which is actually good, don't get me wrong, of saying, "Okay, we heard you guys. You don't want 10A to be decommissioned or to be revoked. We're going to go ahead and take the 5.1 SRD and put it under the Creative Commons license." I think it's called the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License, which they don't run, they don't manage, they don't have control of. So once they put it in there, it's a one-way door. Everything in that SRD is now Creative Commons. Anyone can use it. All they have to do, there's a few things, you have to give credit where credit's due, and things like that, which I have absolutely no problem with that. I think if you're using someone else's work, you should definitely be giving credit to that person for their work. And so anyway, now it's there. Now an unintentional side effect, side effect of that was that inside the SRD were actual names of things that they didn't ever allow us to have in the SRD, such as the Beholder, I think it was the Umberhulk, the Mind Flayer, Strahd, from Curse of Strahd himself. Those were all inside the SRD. So now content creators and such can actually use those names. Now there's not stat blocks, there's not images, so you can't use the copyrighted stat blocks or images of those things, but you could use their names, which is something they've never been able to do. I think in World of Warcraft, the things that remind me the most of a Mind Flayer are called the faceless ones. They have the tentacles. They look different than what a Mind Flayer looks like, but I've always, thought, yeah, they probably got this from Wizards of the Coast, or at least the idea of it. I don't think it went the other way because D&D's been around forever. So anyway, they see that Paizo's making bank with their sales on the Pathfinder core rulebook. They see that their D&D subs are dropping, so they panic and they go, oh, we're going to do a really nice gesture, and we're going to put the SRD 5.1 in the Creative Commons. We're not going to revoke the 10A license, but they kind of didn't specifically say that they're going to make it irrevocable. They just said we're not going to revoke it right now, but we are going to put this the 5.1 SRD into the Creative Commons license, which is good. And it makes it so that a lot of these things are now a lot safer. And ultimately, if with oned&d and content that's not in the SRD 5.1, such as the Artificer and things that came out after that they've never put in, those things are still going to subject to whatever license they decide to put it under. But the good news is, as a content creator, if you don't like that stuff, just develop it for 5e compatible. Move over to Pathfinder, move over to these other companies that are no longer in as much jeopardy as they would have been if the SRD or the 10A was revoked, which encompassed the SRD 5.1. So definitely good news on that front. So I guess ultimately now what we need to think is, what does this all mean? We did win a really big battle, but the war's not over yet. WotC says they're listening to us. I don't think they're completely listening to us. They're seeing what we're complaining about, but the higher ups at WotC, they don't care about us. They care about bottom line. They care about their investors. They could care less about the community. Cynthia Williams has said she's never played D&D. She no interest in playing D&D. I think even the guy, the Chris guy, I don't know if it was Chris. I looked for it. I tried to have his name and stuff. But he also, the head of the tabletop version of D&D, I believe he said he's never played D&D. He just has a background in, computer technology and all that stuff. So that's why he's doing that. So one thing to always keep in mind, this is a great win for us, but WotC's proven to us that they'll first do things that they deem beneficial to themselves. And if it might be able to, if they might be able to lie and make it seem like it's beneficial to us as well, they'll definitely do that. We've seen that with the license 1.2, where they're, oh yeah, we're giving you this stuff that you have anyway. They want us to think that they're listening to us, but in reality, they don't care about us. They only care about the sound of the money going into their pockets, their investors. They only care about that. And the battle's not over yet. The D&D, D&D, oned&d, I guess it was called, D&D 6e. We all know it's really that. If they have content we like, yeah, we can still play and stuff. And But a lot of people are still saying in the surveys that they want things added to the SRD 5.1. They want to keep seeing that grow and not shrink, which technically they can actually, upgrade it and add things to it. But because it's in the Creative Commons and they don't own that, they don't, it's just their content in there. They can add to it, but they can't take away. Ultimately, what I think needs to happen is Cynthia Williams, who started a little over a year ago at Wizards of the Coast as the CEO, I think she needs to resign or go away. This Chris guy, if his name's not Chris, I apologize to any Chris's in WotC. This isn't aimed at you. Whoops, I keep bumping my desk. I think they also need to get relieved of their duties. I think that's about it. I think that's my, I don't know, rant. I think, to be honest, this video actually went smoother than the last three. So this one's probably going to be the one that goes up. But anyway, guys, just wanted to share my thoughts. I think we're kind of headed in the right direction. WotC's the one kicking and screaming now because we're making them do things. They're realizing that they need us more than we need them. We can always go to other RPG systems. And I do think that the bottom line of everything is with this, they tried to use a strategy of the anchoring, and I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot with a bazooka, and they may never recover fully. WotC may end up going into the toilet. Lots and lots of people jumped ship because they didn't like what they were seeing and went and checked out new RPG systems such as Pathfinder. I don't know any others. I've only really looked at Pathfinder, but actually there's like Dungeon Crawl Classic. I think Bob World Builder was talking about. He also talked about one called, was it like 5 Torches Deep? All these other kind of systems. And now they put money into that, and they're like, you know what? I'm not buying anything more from Wizards of the Coast. So I think they might have shot themselves in the foot, and they're not coming back from it very easily. So anyway, that's all I wanted to share with you. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you're still around. And if you did in any shape or form enjoy it, please leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Click the little notification bell. Helps me tremendously. If well, it helps me in the rankings. People actually see this video. My videos, I usually get maybe 50, 60. I think my last video got like 60 or so views, while other people are getting thousands, and that's okay. I just want my voice out there. But anyway, check out my other channels, my Twitter. Tell other people about my channel. Check it out. If they like what they see, they can sub. And next week we will have another Learn JavaScript with Foundry VTZ. So thanks again, my friends, and until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.